like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. I'm a Who Dat. Long as I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. Sports Coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. I'm a Who Dat. Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube Live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your chain for the championship. Fucking on Tampa, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy and you probably smell the crooked referees or Roger Goodell. Yeah, money like this and I'm a Who Dat. Every day I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like this and I'm a Who Dat. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that. You're
listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
All right. Shout out to the fam. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're now rocking with the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys, where we have intense, entertaining, educating, and enlightening sport talk from your favorite sports fam. Shout out to you guys, man, on this Thursday episode of the stream. Actually, it'll be Wednesday. I'm kind of ahead of myself on the stream. Much love to the fam. Appreciate y'all, and appreciate y'all. In terms of the donations, a lot of the family members and the promotion of the show. I thank you. Shout out to our Patreon members, our YouTube membership channel, participants, as well as the mighty supporters of the Who Dat Nation and the Great Saint Think Tank. So big ups to all you guys. In this installment, man, listen, Hump Day edition of the Coma coming at you with several news notes and items, as we are officially in our off season for the New Orleans Saints, as we gear up, and it's evaluation time right now for the team, looking at what it needs to do as we prepare for free agency, as we get ready for the draft. What do the Saints have to do to make this team go from 6-11 to double-digit wins to get in the playoffs, or perhaps not even that? You know, could we do a 2 to 3 game improvement? Most certainly, the Miami Dolphin game would have been a game we'd have won. A couple other games we should have had in the bag. But how can we have a 3 to 4 game improvement to kind of verify us making the bump, or the jump rather, to get back to the playoffs and control the NFC South? We know that the Carolina Panthers backed in to the playoffs and back right on out. So, you know, they fought their asses off. I ain't gonna give them slack, some slack on that. I give them slack on that, but they backed on in and just back right on out. But that's all right, man. We are in this situation where we know what we need to do to improve the team. We're looking at the offense. We're looking at the defense. Special teams definitely need improvement there as well. But we'll take a look at some articles of discussion to talk about the defense, the offense, and we will span the gambit. So y'all lock y'all selves in and get ready for the show. Y'all hit that like button, hit the sub button, and the notification bell. This is brought to you by FanDuel. So check out FanDuel, get your bets in for the playoffs and all the other things that's happening. Shout out to FanDuel, the official sponsor of the Sports Coma. Now let's get right into this thing, baby. Now this is an article right here from NOLA.com. Shout out to them. This is an analysis talking about Cam Jordan's season and show why he won't give the Saints a discount on his contract again. Now, I'm on the record saying that I think Cam does give the Saints a bit of a discount. It won't be an expensive agreement, but I think it'll be something that Cam could respect and the Saints could respect as well, because Cam Jordan is not going to say, okay, listen, I'm going to go and play for the 49ers or whomever 1 year and then retire a Saint. You see, he doesn't. His goal is to play one more time with this team. So is Double D, Demario Davis. Their mindsets are the same. They want to play an additional year because they like where this team is headed. So if that's the case, leverage in terms of using outside teams to jack up the price, that is not going to happen. So we're looking at a cap friendly deal. I mean, I'm not talking about the vet minimum, something north of the vet minimum that's responsible, that will be good for the team as well as the players. And that's for both contracts. But anyway, let's see what the writer says right here in this article. Cam Jordan said he needs to talk with his wife, Nikki, before saying, he's playing in 2026. So the boss gave him the thumbs up and said, go get that paper. So I would love to be in full support. The New Orleans Saints defensive end said, she said, you got 100% of support. So it was pretty quick. Yeah, by the end of the season was hardly a question, too, about Cam. After all, he demonstrated he could still produce at a high level after 10 and a half sacks in 2025, something the Saints' own brass didn't even expect. Them only mystery now is if Cam Jordan and the Saints can hammer out a new contract ahead of next season, as the 36-year-old is set to become a free agent in March. Now, until they don't want me anymore, this is where I always want to be. This is what Cam said. But his resurgence creates an interesting wrinkle for what can be a complicated negotiation between the defensive end and the Saints. A year ago, Jordan did take a pay cut, slightly more than $6 million, but had a bunch of built-in incentives to earn back some of that money if he performed well. But the dynamic is different now, as Jordan's earned over the $2 million off for the incentives alone. Now Jordan's coming back off his best season in over 5 years, right? But he turns 37 in July. The Saints and Cam have weeks to sort out the situation. But in the meantime, it shouldn't be lost that Cam's just put one of the best old guy seasons in NFL history. Let's take a look at what the writer here adds. Shout out to Matt Paris. He says Jordan joined a rare group of defensive ends. There are only 10 instances of a player reaching at least 10 sacks in a season after turning 36 years of age. Since sacks became official in 1982. Cam Jordan became the latest when he brought down Atlanta Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins in the season finale. And these are just a few of the names that he joined by doing that. Number one, Reggie White had 16 sacks in 1998 at the age of 37 for the Green Bay Packers. Reggie White was a beast, a wildebeest. He was a guy that was designed or created by God to play the football position. He was unstoppable. He had just the strength of Reggie White, the agility of Reggie White, his moves. He's smart. He was strong, an internal person. He was a minister, a pastor, believed in God, taught it profusely. But boy, was he something on that. He was unblockable. And in my estimation, the greatest defensive end that ever played football, in my opinion, is the great late Reggie White, the best ever to do it. And he had 16 sacks at the age of 37 for the Packers. That's crazy work. And that same year, Chris Dolman, he did it for the San Francisco 49ers. He had 15 sacks in 1998. That's crazy work. So in the same year, actually four of them did that big time thing for them. That's crazy that it's showing here according to the list. In 1998, 3 guys did that, which was Reggie White, Chris Dolman, Chris Dolman, and Kevin Green. Now those are, if I'm not mistaken, all those guys are Hall of Famers. But Reggie White is ridiculous. Chris Dolman is a guy that doesn't get nearly the accolades that he deserves when you talk about defensive ends. He kind of gets lost in that 90 period when they had a bunch of those guys. But Reggie White, Chris Dolman from the Vikings, this was a terrific player, but he was with the Niners when he pulled that off. I think that was the year the 49ers. Was that the champ? I don't think that was that the championship year. If I'm not mistaken, y'all help me out in the chat. But he had 15 of them in 98. Kevin Green, the former Ram and 49er, had it in 98. So they just was balling. Those guys was cut loose on that San Francisco 49er defense. Then Dolman did it again in 1997. He had 12 sacks for the 49ers. Kevin Green did it again in 1998. I think that might be 97. That's a typo. This time with the Carolina Panthers at the age of 37. Kevin Green was a beast. Julius Peppers at the age of 38 had 11 in 2017. Reggie White did it again in they got 1998 with the Packers. I think that's some, you got to check his numbers. I think that might be 97 or something like that. We'll see. 97 or 96 with the when he was with the Green Bay Packers. He couldn't have done it twice in the same year. But Cam Jordan, 10.5 sacks in 2025 at the age of 36. Too Tall Jones had 10 in 1987 for the Cowboys. And the great Bruce Smith, the fantastic all-world Buffalo Bill, and later on Washington Redskin defensive end in the year 2000 had 10 sacks as well. He's also another great to talk about. But nonetheless, when you mention Cam Jordan with names like Reggie White, Chris Dolman, Julius Peppers, Kevin Green, Bruce Smith, Too Tall Jones, that's legendary territory. We know Cam going in the Hall, man. Once he hangs him up next year, 5 years from there, you can start getting Cam fitted for a brown jersey or beige or whatever you want to call it. But that's terrific. Now, that's 7 players, total of 5 of whom in the Hall of Fame. Only Jordan, who is still active, and Jones aren't. Too Tall's not in there. But Jordan became the first defender north of 36 to record double-digit sacks since Peppers did it in 2017. There are only 25 defensive players total to log a snap in that span, let alone a sack. So chalk it up to Cam Jordan and everything that he did. Now, his breakout was truly unexpected. Jordan loves to say that he knew he was still capable of putting those together such a season, often noted that all he needed was an opportunity. In those remarks, he usually throw a pot shot or two toward former Saints defensive line. Yeah, he always zinging Ty Grantham for being one. He felt limited in his usage, but Jordan had 2 sacks in 2023, 4 in 24, and the productivity or lack thereof was hard to ignore. Didn't we expect 10.5 sacks from him? General Manager Mickey Loomis said, no, I wouldn't say that. But I mean, no, I wouldn't say that. Well, we expected that. I'm excited for him. But then again, I expected them. That's why I gave him the money. That's why I'm the great Mickey Loomis. That's why I gave him the money. That's why I gave him the money. Well, hell yeah, I knew it. Now. Now, Jordan's 6.5 sack jump from his prior years, one of the biggest ever, when factoring his age. The last player who was at least 36 years age to see an increase of at least 6 sacks from the year prior was Hall of Famer Michael Strahan back in 2007. Strahan recorded 9 sacks after totaling 3 in 2006. But Strahan's case, the defensive production was cut short at 35 because of a broken foot that limited him to just 9 games. There weren't many questions over Strahan's play when healthy. Jordan, on the other hand, had missed a game since 2022 and has been remarkably durable during his career, even while battling through some significant ailments. He'll note part of his down 2020 season was due to a foot injury that required off-season surgery. Still, when players reach double-digit sacks, they have typically been playing at a high level. Now, the Peppers, for instance, put together a respectable 7.5 sack campaign in 2016 before finishing with 11 sacks at the age of 37 back in 2017. Jordan appears to be one of those rare expectations, which makes it remarkable. Still productive despite rotational role. This is what might be most impressive regarding Jordan's turnaround. I did it while playing a rotational role. The stat sheet will show that Jordan started all 17 games, but once Chase Young returned from a calf injury, that sidelined him the first 5 weeks. Jordan then went to playing less than half of his defensive snaps in those 8 games played between week 7 and week 15. Now, obviously, when you start balling it down, the rotational role made Cam fresh. That was the thing that really started happening when Chase Young came back. And not just Chase Young, you started seeing Coach Staley utilize different guys. You start seeing them throw Jonah Williams in there. You start seeing them use Bullard more in there. You start seeing them Shepard, and just moving around different areas. But Jonah Williams was in there. Chris Rump II was thrown in there along with Chase Young. So he had a rotation of defensive end and not just ends, but defensive linemen, period, Great rotation that kept these guys fresh, and that definitely helped Cam kick in the overdrive and fire off on all full of full cylinders when he was healthy because he was refreshing, not worn down. In that span, Jordan recorded 4 sacks. What really kicked it off, he had multiple sacks in back-to-back games that really kind of just kicked it to the next level. In that span, Jordan recorded 4 sacks. Then he recorded 4 sacks in his last 3 games when he played time, when his play time increased, but still never cracked above 60%. The Saints have tended to limit Jordan's snaps as he's gotten older to keep him fresh throughout the season, which worked this year. In all, Jordan played 53.6% of his snaps in 2025. All of the 17 players to have at least 10 sacks this past year, according to StatHead, Jordan had the third smallest percentage of playing time ahead of only Arizona's Josh Sweat, who had 12 sacks at 47.1%. In Detroit, I said Arizona Street. I mean Arizona's Josh Sweat, who had 12 sacks at 47.1, and Detroit's El Kadeem Muhammad, who had 11 sacks at 41.4. And El Kadeem Muhammad was a guy that the Saints drafted. He went to Indianapolis and then ultimately went to Detroit, where he's familiar with Coach Campbell up there. But El Kadeem Muhammad was a guy the Saints picked up later on in the draft. It's good to see they were right on him. Since 2012, when StatHead began tracking player snap counts, Jordan's 590 snaps were the 17th fewest out of the 257 instances in which a player recorded at least 10 sacks in a season. The Saints have done nothing but show that they want me to be here. Jordan said, now at what price? Some would say half last year. I can't do that again. So there you go with that. We're not, and the thing is, like I said, I'm not expecting Cam to take a cheap deal. That's not what's going on. I really do think it could be a mutual situation where Cam Jordan gets some good money to remain with the New Orleans Saints, but at the same time, it's respectable for the Saints. Because remember, the Saints are going to retool the offense, but you have a quarterback. There are pieces, the bookends. We'll get into that. But with the wide receiver room loaded and littered with talent, you can add some more guys to it. I think they got like 11 guys in the wide receiver room right now that'll be looking really interesting for this upcoming season. But the running back room, all this other stuff, the offensive line needs some depth and needs a starter or two. I said 2 of them at the guard position, a guy that pushes Cesar Ruiz, this sort of thing. But that is true. You know, both him and Demario Davis should be given deals that are respectable to them and both the Saints. And I think that'll be a mutual pairing because either one of those players do not, I quote again, do not want to go anywhere, right? All right, let's move on, man, to this next thing right here, right? Tyler Shough is named the finalist for the NFL Rookie of the Year. He's named finalist for the NFL Rookie of the Year, and that the supporters can vote for the Saints quarterback through Friday, January the 30th. So coming up real soon, in maybe a couple of weeks or so, we'll have an opportunity to vote for Tyler Shough. When that happens, man, I'm going to share the links and all that. We're going to try to get Tyler Shough in there as the NFL Rookie of the Year. Now, you know, the good thing about it is the quarterback's the diva position. It gets a lot of the attention. A lot of people believe Ted McMillan was the winner of this honor, will be the winner of the honor because of the fantastic year he's had, and he really has. But we'll see how the voting goes. The New Orleans Saints website announced this, that Tyler Shough was named one of 6 finalists for the 2025 NFL Rookie of the Year award, which you can vote at www.nfl.com/rookies through the end of the voting period of January the 30th. Okay, so it doesn't start then. You can start voting now and then it ends. So you can start voting now. So NFL.com/rookies. So get your vote in right now. All right, good up until January the 30th. So Rookie of the Year candidate, man. Let's get Tyler Shough in there. Now, he completed his rookie season, recording the highest percentage among all rookies at 67.6, which was 221 out of 337. 221 out of 337, almost a 60. They say 67 points. That's a 68, almost a 68. I'm rounding up. A 68% completion rating, which is just insane. And it was even higher on third downs. He had the second most passing yards, over 2,300, and second highest passer rating of 91.3 among the rookies. Shough broke the Saints franchise record for the most passing yards, passing touchdowns, and completion percentage by a rookie. That's big. In week 17, Shough became the second rookie ever with a completion percentage of 80 or higher, 81.5, and at least 300 passing yards and a passer rating of 140 or higher, which was 142.7 in a single game, joining Bo Nix, who did it the year before, and January the 5th of 2025 with Denver. So this is the thing. Bo Nix extremely accurate, and what they share is that long line of being in college for like 7 years. Because Bo Nix went all the way till he couldn't go anymore to refine his game, to work on his accuracy. You know, because I remember him at Auburn, and then he went up to Oregon, and that really went to the next level. So it's like going through QB school in college. Like you have several years of working and all this kind of stuff. Your body develops, your mind develops, as opposed to the 4-year plan. Even though you might not have, Tyler only wasn't playing all those 7 years. He played in the final year. Bo Nix was doing a lot of the playing for the time that he was in there. So he came in extremely ready to step in there and run an offense. I mean, it really showed some positive. But outside of that, also was nominated for the award include the Giants quarterback Jackson Dart. So it's another quarterback there. The Giants Jackson Dart is nominated. New England Patriots running back Travion Henderson is nominated. Los Angeles Raiders running back Ashton Genty is nominated. Carolina Panthers wide receiver Ted McMillan and Cleveland Brown linebacker Carson Swessinger are all players. All of them had fantastic seasons, to be honest with you. This is going to be a tough ballot, but a lot of people have Ted McMillan leading, followed by Tyler Shough. But with all that we said about what he did and how he did it, man, listen, I'm just hoping that we take it home, and we can help it going on and make sure he gets it by going to NFL.com/rookies and vote for our guy, the Shuckinator, Chuck Norris, Chuck Barkley, you know, whatever you won't call it, that's what it is. NFL.com/rookies. Vote now, vote today. All right. Anyway, let's keep it moving, man, and hit this article up next. Shout out to the Canal Street Chronicles, man, of the New Orleans Saints 2025 draft class in review, the breakdown of each of the selections of the rookie campaign. A really good article. Shout out to Jason Watson, who did a pretty good job of putting this thing together. With the end of the season, he kind of ranked out and gave grades, or not relatively grades, but gave a good breakdown of how each one of our players did, like a summary of how the 2025 class ended. And remember, we got a lot of value. It was 9 draft picks, and the Saints signed all of them. And all of them at some point got an opportunity to contribute to the team because of injuries or otherwise, right? So here's his breakdown of them as we take a look here. So let me put it on the big screen there. Kelvin Banks Jr. kicks it off. Round 1, pick number 9, tackle from Texas. Saints' first selection of the draft last offseason, provided a valuable and worthy pick, although a safe option. New Orleans has been through a rotating door with offensive linemen, especially tackles, over the last 5 years. Following the departure of Teron Armstead in 2021 and the retirement of Ryan Ramczyk, the Saints were in desperate need of dependable blindside blocker help. Kelvin Banks Jr. answered the bell, and then some. He managed to play over 1,000 snaps this year and started every game for New Orleans. He certainly has a bright future ahead in the league. Kelvin Banks Jr. was awesome, right? He wasn't perfect, but he was awesome. He was a guy that really impressed at the position, and he deserved a lot of credit for what he did. Now, he did get beat a couple of times, but that's a rookie. But I do like his temperament. I love the pairing of Kelvin Banks Jr. and Tali Fuaga. I think now we need to situate and get the guard situation resolved and the depth situation taken care of as well. But Kelvin Banks was awesome. And then we get to the Shuckinator, right? the Shuckinator, after, a second round pick, 40, from out of Louisville, a competitive position battle that lasted through training camp and preseason. Spencer Rattler was ultimately named the starting quarterback. Although a best effort was put forward, he was unable to muster any momentum or bring juice to an otherwise lifeless New Orleans offense. The keys were turned over to the rookie backup QB in the third quarter of Week 8's game against the Buccaneers, and Shough never looked back. He would go to finish the season with over 2,300 yards, 10 touchdowns against 6 interceptions, and Shough added another 186 yards and 3 running touchdowns on the ground, and gave the Who Dat Nation a chance to be confident in a quarterback once more. Can't say enough about it, especially when it's a quarterback. Remember, Tyler's 26 years old. He's mature, and he has the keys to the bus going forward. This is what the Saints believe, we believe, and let's see what we can build around him and see how far we can take this thing. Next pick, Vernon Brockton. Remember the raw defensive lineman they picked up from Texas in rounds 3, number 71. Unfortunately for Brockton, the rookie season came to a close much sooner than he or anyone else likely anticipated. After making his debut in New Orleans, weeks 2 loss to the Niners, the rookie defensive end landed on the IR after a significant hip injury. He will not see the field again, but should be a favorite to make an impact along the Saints front seven next year. Better believe it. Brian Bresee and Vernon Brockton will have definitely impact. Can't wait to see him get back to it next year. And with Cam and all these other guys along the line, man, let's keep this thing going along. Jonas Sanker, who's another of the third round picks, number 93, a safety from Virginia. Remember, I was advocating for Xavier Watts, who had a really good year too, but I'm not mad at Sanker. Rookie defensive back from Virginia may be the gem of the draft for the Saints after projected starting safety Tyrann Mathieu retired before the start of the season. Injuries derailed the beginning of Justin Reed's year, and Sanker saw the field early and often in his career. Although thrown into the fire, Sanker held his own in coverage under the Coach Staley's defensive scheme. He would finish the season with 80 tackles, a fumble recovery, 2 picks, 6 pass defense, and the family members should expect to see a lot more of Jonas Sanker in 2026. Love his play this year. Okay, now to our 2 fourth-round picks. Danny Stutzman, the running back who was picked up in round 4, pick 112. Although many may have expected a larger role from Stutzman in year 1, the rookie linebacker found himself on the sideline more often than not, thanks in large part to a crowded depth chart. The retention of Werner and New Orleans certainly took potential snaps away from Stutzman, but he should see an expanded role in 2026. He finished with 53 tackles and basically like a co-star role. He was a co-star with Pete Werner. And that pairing was really intelligent by Coach Staley, because y'all notice that Pete Werner didn't get hurt. They did not overuse Pete Werner. They matched his snaps and his reps with Danny Stutzman, and he still was able to produce 70-plus tackle, him being Pete Werner. Stutzman got 53. Werner had over 70 of them. So it wasn't a situation where Werner got hurt. Think about that, because he was a guy that had some injury issues early on. By mixing the pairing like they did, you've seen both of them kind of excel, which was really excellent, because sooner or later when Demario Davis does retire, you expect then Stutzman to step in, and he'll have a good idea how to operate with that defense. Stutzman looked real good this year. Quincy Riley, round 4, pick 131 out of Louisville. New Orleans made Riley the last of the 4 consecutive defensive selections. The rookie corner carved out a nice niche for himself as the nickelback corner of the Saints. He closed the 2025 season with 35 tackles, 1 forced fumble in the pick. He defended 10 passes this year while contributing to what would have been a top 10 defense that would finish in the top 10 in this league. If Alontae Taylor is not on the roster next season, family members should feel comfortable with Riley stepping to fill in the void. We've seen a lot of Alontae Taylor at the nickel spot. You've seen at times, you've seen Quincy Riley play that outside spot, and he did really well. Like one of my favorite plays from Quincy Riley, because he's not a gambling cornerback, he's a smart one. Remember, there was the play against the Panthers where the ball was thrown to Ted McMillan, and he grabbed the ball, and Quincy Riley punched it, just hit the ball. He didn't hit nothing else, just punched the ball clean out of his hands and saved the touchdown. That ultimately later on we went on to beat the Carolina Panthers to sweep on the season. But he had several outstanding plays during the season for Quincy Riley. Really smart cornerback, physical, good tackler. He's only going to improve for us going forward. And the reality too is, remember, he finally got going after they pulled Isaac Yiadom out of there. We'll see what they do with Isaac Yiadom. Yiadom might be a guy that they release to kind of save some money and go in a different direction. Because even if Alontae Taylor can't, is not coming back, or even though we'll see with the market, because obviously I think he'll be priced out of what the Saints are willing to pay for him. But if they do still have Isaac Yiadom there, and they could pivot from Isaac Yiadom and go in a different direction, to be honest with you, because I think they'll restructure his deal too. He'll be one of many of the players the Saints restructure. All right, let's go to the 6th round pick, the lone 6th round pick, Mr. Devin Neal. 184, the running back out of Kansas. After starting the year as the RB3 on the depth chart, Neal will go on to play in 10 games in his rookie year following an injury to the tailback, Kendre Miller, in week number 7. Neal would take a larger role with the Saints offense behind AK-41, and Neal would tally up over 200 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground, while adding over 100 of them in 17 catches before being placed on IR and appearing in the last game back in week 10. So it was a kind of a mixed year, but what I seen from Devin Neal, I was happy for. You see, I think he's a guy that you mix in and keep there over time, but I do appreciate Devin Neal's contribution this year. Going to look forward to what he does in 26. Now here's Matavo, the huge tight end prospect the Saints picked up, round 7, 248 out of UCLA. Quiet season after spending much of the time on the practice squad. The 6'6" tight end really never got a chance to break into the offense. I thought he was 6'8" and be utilized efficiently. Starting tight end Juwan Johnson had a career season and did not relinquish any targets to players behind him. That, of course, did not stop Maliki from earning his first 2 career receptions and picking up 10 total yards. So he got in there in the last month or so in the season, but he was always a player. I was like, where's Matavo? Just get him in there when you've seen Jack Stahl get hurt. You've seen Foster Moreau get hurt. That kind of opened the door for Matavo, and he was in there blocking. He caught a few passes with his hands. He's a big target. That move actually pretty good for a big tight end like himself. We'll be interested to see a large tight end like him and Tyler Shough continue to develop and have those guys moving around out there on the field. We'll see. And then the final of the 7th round picks in 254, edge rushers from Syracuse, Fadil Diggs. Like Matavo, New Orleans' final draft selection of the class, Fadil Diggs spent significant time as a member of the practice squad this season. Diggs had a strong showing during the preseason, but ultimately was left off the Saints roster this year. While it will not be clear until late in the upcoming offseason, I would like to expect Fadil Diggs to make a push once more for being named to the roster this summer. Now, that all depends on the vision the Saints have for Chris Rump II. Because remember, before Fadil Diggs Fadil Diggs was at a line-for-line battle in preseason with Chris Rump II. Y'all remember that? Put one in the chat if y'all remember that. That's how close it came down to the wire, because Fadil Diggs was balling in preseason. And it was between him and Chris Rump II, and Chris Rump beat him out because of the veteran experience. Does that happen again for this upcoming season? Now, Chris Rump II is an unrestricted free agent. He's not, the Saints might look at bringing him back at a cheaper rate, not at a cheaper rate because his contract was already cheap, but they can also elect to bring him back or simply pivot to Fadil Diggs, the 7th round pick, and give him more opportunities. But when you look at guys like Bullard, you look at guys like Bullard, Jonah Williams, and not Fadil Diggs, that's Chris Rump II, guys that had a impact on plays like Chris Rump II with pressure. He had a couple of sacks this season. Jonah Williams had 5 sacks for the Saints in a reserve role. And then, you've seen guys like Bullard, who kind of, who played so well. They moved Divine Gaccio out of the starting line. You had Nate Shepard, you had Bullard in there, Brian Bursey, and they moved Divine Gaccio out of there because his play dropped, and he is another guy the Saints have to get back together and find out what's going on with him. He hasn't stepped the hell up. He had a rotten year. But outside of that, this is the class, and these guys perform admirably, man. In the chat, fam, y'all give me. I got the question. Pardon me, I meant to tell y'all, man. In the chat, there's a poll question up of how would you rate the Saints 2025 class. You see the options there. Go ahead and make your pickings on that. Put it in the chat. Let me know how you guys feel about the 2025 class. Give it a grade. How do you feel about those players? All right. Anyway, let's keep it going, man. As we keep this thing going, let me give you here's a little time for a cap watch. Right, y'all hit that like button, man. Hit the subscribe button. We going in. Y'all hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Y'all hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. On that 3-time repeating crap like Umar Johnson like to do. We look at the camp or the Saints cap update. The Saints are now at 19.6 plus in the red. Now, before it was like 12, something along like that. But as we get to the final with the active 61 players that are totally left on the team cap space is relegated to over the cap, where they're dropping it, saying it's in the red by almost $20 million. So 19.6, which is almost 20 million in the red for the Saints. So it's quite a few things that the Saints can do in terms of fixing this. There'll be several players that the Saints would ultimately look at restructuring deals for. Elvin Kamara with that 11.5 mil. 1 year left on his contract. They can restructure that. There are going to be several players that Mickey Loomis and Kai Hartley are going to restructure. Now, and just to put y'all on some game, there's a lot of movement and shaking that's going on in the NFL right now. That's talking about a lot of the coaching carousel today. The other day, Tomlin stepped down from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was not released of his duties. He simply stepped down. And what that's telling me is like there's a lot of teams out there that's looking for coaches. It's a nice carousel. So 2 of the longest tenured coaches. When you talk about Mike Tomlin, you talk about Harbaugh in Baltimore. You talk about some guys, man. This is an interesting carousel, to be honest with you, about what we're seeing in this situation. Now, the Kevin Stefanski thing should have happened last year. This type of thing. But you see Arizona, they got rid of Gannon. Let me put that. Matter of fact, let me put the screen up right here. Here it is right here for the coaching carousel. I got this for a reason. Just breaking this down. So Arizona, they fired their coach after 3 seasons of 15 and 36. They actually beat us, man. So, but I guess it wasn't enough. But the prediction is they're looking at Clint Kubiak as their guy to work with, perhaps Kyler Murray. Now, is Kubiak ready? He did a swell job with Seattle, but is he ready for a head coaching job? That's the question. Is he really ready for a head coaching job? Well, if Jonathan Gannon can get one, I guess Clint Kubiak can get one too. Wouldn't be a bad place for him to land. We'll see how it works, man. Kind of a quiet type, but he carries the Kubiak name. He got the success tied to the Shanahan brand. So is that enough to get him in the door? It probably will be, because he is one of these people that's interested in becoming a head coach. Arizona might be the stop. Maybe not. We'll see. Atlanta also got rid of Raheem Morris after 2 years of being 16 and 18. They did interview Coach John Harbaugh, and some people believe Harbaugh might be the dude. Matt Ryan brought him in. Matt Ryan wants to have a leader of men that can galvanize the team. And is Harbaugh the guy? Now, he'll have a QB situation with Michael Penix. He has to work out. Kirk Cousins still hanging around. But will he be the guy? Now, you can see other candidates. They got listed there just like before with Arizona. They're talking about Vance Joseph, Robert Saleh, Matt Nagy, Thomas Brown, Jeff Hafley. Some of these guys from the previous hiring cycle. For the Falcons, Kevin Stefanski, who used to be with the Browns, Weaver, who I like a lot. Kubiak's listed there. Mike McDaniel, who got rid of by the Dolphins. And you see a couple of those guys right there. Baltimore, after they fired Harbaugh, After 18 years, 180 and 113. His record was 13-11 in the playoffs, and he won a Super Bowl for the Baltimore Ravens. His time ran out right there. He still wants to coach, but who do you get to bring in there to lead the Baltimore Ravens? They're saying Kevin Stefanski, the former Browns head coach. Are you effing kidding me? That guy should not ever get another head coaching opportunity. I would definitely. You got to be crazy if you put him over the Baltimore Ravens after what he did in Cleveland. He didn't do a damn thing to deserve another job. That's like giving you an upgrade. He didn't do anything. He didn't do a damn thing. How do you then cross him over and say, "Hey, man, you stink as the Brown coach"? That's because they sucky. But hey, you're fired, and then you upgrade him to the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson, all these people, and all this kind of stuff. Are you kidding me? Stefanski might make a good offensive coordinator, but he's not a head coach candidate. He doesn't have the temperament, don't have the mentality for it. No, I say no to that. Stefanski shouldn't get another job, especially for the Baltimore Ravens. That's stupid. Brian Flores, Mike McDaniel is interesting right there. McDaniel and Lamar Jackson, wide open offense. That makes a lot of sense. Clint Kubiak is there. Weaver's a defensive guy. Matt Nagy is in this hire again. Joe Brady is also thrown in there. He has no coaching experience, head coaching experience, but they're looking at it. Now for the Browns, Stefanski finished 45-56, a playoff record of 1-2 in 6 years. They're thinking Mike McDaniel might take over the position. Jim Harbaugh, Todd Monken, Jim Schwartz, Tommy Reese. A lot of people are jiffing from Jim Schwartz, the former Tennessee Titans coach, to take over and bring them into for the Browns. But who's going to want the job? There's so much confusion. The ownership is an issue. And then there's the Las Vegas Raiders. They got rid of Pete Carroll after 1 year. He went 3-14. They got him out of there. Robert Saleh, who's the former Jets coach and current 49ers defensive coordinator, who didn't have any good success with the 49ers. You want to put him ahead of the Raiders? Vance Joseph, Davis Webb, Mike Nagy, Kubiak, Mike LaFleur from the Green Bay Packers is also listed there. And perhaps LaFleur is supposed to be negotiating with the upper management of the Packers to bring him back. But is LaFleur feeling like, I've done enough for this team, time for me to step out and go somewhere else and try it again? Maybe. The Miami Dolphins, after firing McDaniels in 4 years, 35-33, 0-2 in the playoffs, they're looking at Chris Shula as the defensive coordinator. It's him, Jim Harbaugh, Kevin Stefanski, Clint Kubiak, Robert Saleh. Just a bunch of retreads. A lot of these guys are retreads from several year ago coaching cycles trying to find a job, right? The Giants is a job that a lot of people feel like that should be Harbaugh. They want Harbaugh up there, Kevin Stefanski, Kafka, Steve Spagnuolo, Antonio Pierce, Mike McCarthy is jumping in there, Raheem Morris. We'll see. And the Steelers, who's going to be the guy? They're saying Jesse Minter, the Chargers defensive coordinator. Cut it out. Cut it out. Other potential candidates to watch out for: Broncos QB's coach Davis Webb. They're looking at Chris Shula. Come on, man. It's another name you're likely to hear connected with this open is 38-year-old Kubiak. So they're not looking to get an experienced coach to go up there and coach. We'll see. And then, of course, finally, it's the Tennessee Titans, who got rid of their head coach back in October. He was 4-19. They're looking at Matt Nagy. Same people, Stefanski, Mike McDonald, Cliff Kingsbury's in there. Cliff Kingsbury's looking for a job. Vance Joseph, Spags, Jason Garrett. Forget about it, Jason. Mike McCarthy's in that thing as well. He's trying to get back into the coaching cycle as well. So, and this is the job. So it'll be interesting to see. And I say that because when you bounce back to the Saints cap issue, you got to look at and think for a second that the New Orleans Saints could be losing some people. And what I mean by people, I'm talking about one of the executives. There are rumors around that Kai Hartley could ultimately be taking a executive job somewhere in the NFC South. So there's some stuff going on with that. We might get pilfered for an exec here or there. But like I said, there's a lot of retread guys that surround the organization. Well, you still have Thomas Dimitrioff. Fontenot's got fired, so he's out there. Could there be a situation where you see Kai Hartley leave to take an exec job and the Saints bring back Fontenot? Could there be a situation like that happening? And being that Fontenot was actually a general manager, if that happens, if Mickey Loomis, and the answer is no, he won't slide out of his way, despite the fact that he was a general manager for several years with the Falcons, right? Would that be a situation where you could see Mickey sliding on out the way? I doubt it. I would be seriously surprised if I seen that from Mickey Loomis, that he actually did that. He actually got out of the way and allowed that to happen. I would be very surprised by that. All right. Anyway, let's keep this thing going. Shout out to the fam. Appreciate y'all for being in the stream. But this is what I'm saying. 19.6 million as of right now, with 61 active members of the New Orleans Saints roster. And the restructuring will occur when you talk about 11.5 million for Elvin Kamara in his final year of this deal. That'll be restructured. The 10 million for Eric McCoy will be restructured. Chase Young's 14.8 will be restructured. Carl Granderson's 10.7 will be restructured. Chris Olave's 15.4 would be renegotiated. He will be extended, and that money will drop down to less than $2 million. So that will free up a lot of cap. The Cesar Ruiz deal will get reworked. The Jawan Johnson deal will get reworked. You see what I'm saying? These deals will get restructured. Justin Reed at 9 and 9.2 will get reworked. Wouldn't be surprised if I see Pete Werner's deal at 6.2 get reworked. Nate Shepard at 3.9 and Divine Gacho at $6.4 million. Divine Gacho could get reworked. Now, are there players on this team that could be potential cap cuts, right? We seen on Divine Gacho, this is he in the final year of his deal. We traded to get him from New England. His first year was 1.2 million. Hit the balloons to 6.4. Is this a player the Saints just released or they restructure this guy? Now he has multiple voidable years remaining all the way up to 2030. So the reality is you got to restructure Divine Gacho at 6.4 million balloon. You restructure him. There could be several guys that could be released here for the New Orleans Saints. I'm just going to keep it real. There could be several of them, but I'm just mentioning some of these guys that they're definitely going to restructure. And once the Saints do that, it'll definitely get them down. So going 19 down, and after it might balloon anywhere between 10 to 15 million dollars to spend it, just depending on how all the money works out. Is the Saints going to have a big lump sum of money to play with this free agent period? It depends on how Mickey Loomis works this, but there's a lot of money that he could save, to be honest with you. The Elvin deal on base salary, the McCoy deal, if he works him down to like a 1.2 or 1.5, you're looking at 10, 20, 30, 39, 49. Yeah, and then at the end of the day, you're looking at tens of millions of dollars that he can peel off in restructures on base salaries, the current salaries, to add to the cap and rework that thing. Now, what? Hell, you're looking at 2 contracts get you, 2 maybe 3 contracts get you back into the black, and then the rest of those guys, kind of rocket you up toward the anywhere between the 15 and $25 million range if they restructure. So they might have some guys they outright cut. Isaac Yiadom could be one of these guys that they can cut. Divine Gacho could be one of these guys they cut. I just showed you his contract. Because they might have better people that they draft that might be in there. We'll see how it all works. But like I said, let me see if I can find, because hold on, let me see if I can find. I always showed you Divine Gacho's stuff, and he had an off year, man, a real off year, and I like Divine Gacho. I just think he just had a tough year. And then of course here's Isaac Yiadom at 2.5 million. Remember, the Saints signed him to a 3-year deal. 1.2 2025. This year balloons to 2.5 and then 2.6 for a 31-year-old cornerback. And Isaac Yiadom is not that good. He's not really that good. You look at his numbers. Last year he played 17 games for the 49ers. I think he was with the Niners that time. And he had 36 total tackles and 1 pick. Last year for the Saints in a limited role, he played in 14 games, 3 of them in which he started, right? And the first time he started since 2022, he had 15% of his defensive snaps, which was really low, the lowest totals he's had in 3 years. So was he played 34.4% on the special teams. He had 11 total tackles and 1 tackle for loss. So not much to talk about for Isaac Gidham, but still that's a lot of money to pay a guy with that small amount of depth. So 2.5 million for him. You can expect a restructure, or they might end up releasing him. So if any, because it happens every year, you might have a couple of players that the Saints put in the street that they feel like they can do better. But having, those two could be candidates. Isaac Gidham and Divine Gacho could be candidates. You got Vernon Brockton. You can address the defensive line by signing these other guys. You can find another guy that you can bring in, might be cheaper than the $6 million you're paying him. Because Divine Gacho, what was it? Was it $6 million? I want to say was it? No, I want to say it's like $3 million, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look over that again, just to make sure I get my numbers right. It's 6.4. You can do better than that. They can find him because he ain't even started, man. He ain't even started. Other guys outplayed him. They put his ass on the bench, And like I said, I like Divine Gacho, but not in the final year, 6.4. That's a restructure, or they might that could be a release. Be honest, because last year 17 games, 41.5% defensive snaps. He had 2 tackles for loss and 14 solo tackles, 29 of them assisted tackles. So altogether, what's that? Let's see 10. 30, what's that? 34 something tackles? Something like that, 35 tackles. 1 forced fumble. Yeah, that's not what's going to be hitting for $6 million on the final year. That ain't going to cut it. So like I said, we'll see what they're going to do on it, but you start looking at stuff like that, like I do, it's like, damn, that's a lot of money to pay Isaac Gidham. And he's not a starting quality cornerback to me. I think he's a dime guy, but I wouldn't have him out there with my 3 starters. My 2 corners and my nickel. I wouldn't do that because he's not a great tackler. He's not a great cover man. He doesn't do really anything fantastic enough to be out there with my starters. Only for short burst periods when they get refreshed or whatever, maybe something like that. But yeah, that money and Divine Gacho, I got to look at that, man. Either restructuring or it could be a possible cap hit. Well, releasing. We'll see how it all handles, how the Saints handle it. But anyway, that's a perfect segue to this side of things, man, as we keep this ball moving. This article right here, the Saints free agents, key players who could be gone in 2026. Let's drop into it. Shout out to Sports Illustrated Saints, Kyle T. Mosley. And what they believe what's going on. This was not the case last season before Derek Carr retired. What's the difference a year makes? The Saints were in salary cap purgatory, coming off a last place finish in the NFC South. We finished last this year anyway, but it's a different energy. And didn't have a clear pathway to get better into contention. That has changed. The Saints 2025 NFL draft class features hit after hit. Kelvin Banks Jr. looked like a long-term solution at the offensive tackle position, the blindside tackle. Tyler Shough may be a legit star in the making. Jonas Senker had big opportunity than expected and thrive. Others include Danny Stutzman, Quincy Riley, Devin Neal, all show promise as well. Now, with the quarterback in place, there now is a clear path to New Orleans taking back the division, but there will be a difficult decision to be made this offseason in free agency, a couple of them. The Saints surely should bring guys to town, but there are internal options to worry about. Here's a look at the Saints pending free agents. The Saints have a lot of decisions to make. Saints pending free agents, 18 of them. Taysom Hill, Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, Foster Moreau, Julian Blackman, Dylan Reduns, Alante Taylor, Luke Fortner, Jonathan Bullard, Will Clapp, Hugo Amadi, Michael Davis, Chris Rump II, John Ridgeway, and then the free agents, the exclusive rights free agents, Rajon Wright, Isaiah Stallbird, Mitchell Payton, and Kai Kroger, the punter. 18 free agents. For these Saints, the biggest free agents to watch out for is Hill, Davis, and Jordan. The future of these actually was called the top priorities by ESPN insider Dan Graziano. What is their top priority? Make decisions about veterans. Graziano wrote linebacker Demario Davis will be 37 in July, and excuse me, in January. Happy birthday, Demario. Defensive end Cam Jordan will turn 37 next summer. Both have voiding contracts this year, but they have continued to play at a high level despite their age. The Saints will need to decide whether to bring them back, as well as the 35-year-old Taysom Hill. If not, they could get younger at these positions. And outside of the trio, the guy to watch will be Taylor. He spoke about the free agency, about the season ending. Now, it's good to be in the process. There's going to be a lot of buzz, a lot of interest, but I got to just make the right decision for me and my family. I think I'm going to continue to pray about it, continue to trust in God. He'll land me where I need to be. Ever since we started negotiating during training camp, I prayed that we could figure something out. It just didn't happen, but the Saints give me an opportunity, drafting me and give me a chance to show my talents week in and week out. So I end up going somewhere else, but it's going to hurt. I love this city. It feels good. Whenever I go around the community, I see kids doing thumbs down celebrations. So to leave it, that's what it comes down to. It would be tough. All right. That's Alante Taylor. It's going to be a long off season, but there is optimism around the franchise. Shout out to the young writer. And then, of course, looking at this list of players, you say, well, who do you guys keep here on this list? Taysom Hill is dealing with a shoulder injury. I think Taysom Hill, time with the Saints is over with. He has to recoup from a shoulder injury, so I would move on from Taysom Hill. It's time. Demario Davis and Cam Jordan are still playing at a very high level. I will work out team-friendly and player-friendly deals with those two gentlemen as they for the final year next year for them to finish as Saints. Foster Moreau is done, in my estimation here. Let's move on from him. Julian Blackman is an interesting veteran. He looked really good when the Saints had him, and he played really well up until he got hurt. He was a player. I wouldn't mind having Julian Blackman back on a cheap vet minimum deal to bring him back as a depth piece. We already got Jonas Sanker, and we'll see what the Saints do. But Julian Blackman, I'm not against it if he takes a cheap deal. We can always use quality veterans in the back end of that defense. Dylan Reduns, I would say no to Dylan Reduns. Wasn't impressed with him on this 1-year agreement. Not impressed at all. Alante Taylor, I believe that Alante will be priced out of our way. I think the Saints kind of understand that they're going to let the market dictate his value. And I think Alante might get more money than the Saints are willing to pay him. So I think he's going. Luke Fortner, I will re-sign Luke Fortner because of the injuries to Eric McCoy. He can't stay healthy. Jonathan Bullard, I would bring him back as an interior defensive tackle. He played really well in this defensive system. We'll love having him back. Will Clapp, no to him. Hugo Amadi, I would bring Hugo because he's a good special teams player, an excitable player that can help you in the secondary. He will work cheap. Mike Davis, no to Mike Davis. Chris Rump, the second, I would definitely bring Chris Rump the second back. Him and Fadil Diggs can battle again. John Ridgeway is an interesting option. The Saints traded for him a couple years ago to get him from the Commanders. Big interior defensive tackle. More than likely, the Saints probably not going to bring Ridgeway back. And then, of course, out of our exclusive rights free agents like Rejon Wright, I would sign him back. Also, Stallbird, Mitchell Payton, and Kai Kroger. And also, when I sign Kai Kroger back, because it's going to be cheap deals for all of those gentlemen, when you bring them back, you also bring competition for Kai Kroger, whether through the draft or you sign a veteran to kick against them. Hell, you can bring back James Burnup and have Burnup to punt up against him because he barely beat Burnap in the kicking battle. So I'm pretty sure Kellen Moore will find a way to kind of to make that thing pop and shake as well. All right. Anyway, let's keep this thing moving, man, as we move on to the next article right here. Shout out to the Saints Wire. Saints Wire laying it down. They're talking about the key. What is this article about by Mr. Sigler? Hold on. What is it? Hold on here, fam. Let me see if I can get this article here. There you go. This 2026 free agency ranking the Saints top 10 targets at the offensive guard position, which is something we often talked about for the team, is getting help at that guard position. We officially reached the offseason. Saints have an obvious weakness to address their offensive line, specifically the interior. Young bookend tackles Calvin Banks Jr. Tyler Fuaga looked promising on the outside, but the inside is a different story. Big vacancy at the left guard position where they haven't had a reliable starter since Andrews Pete was there. Pro Bowl center Eric McCoy missed 20 games over the last 2 years. Right guard Cesar Ruiz took a step back in 2025 after making some progress in 2024. The group needs at least one new starter at the left guard position, and improving depth or going into different directions at other spots should also be a priority. McCoy's contract makes him the likeliest to remain in the starting lineup in 2026. Ruiz will probably stay too. It's too soon to say for sure who will be on the market in March. Some players will sign extensions, others may receive the franchise tag, and a few may decide to call it a career. But for now, here's our take on the 10 best free agents available so far. And this is one right here of the up and comers and they prime. Y'all hit that like button, man. Hit that subscribe button and that share button. Shout out to you guys. I see y'all in here, man. We appreciate y'all for spending y'all afternoon with us, man. Hit that like button and the share button. Share us on all the social media feeds that you frequent. Facebook, Instagram, it doesn't matter. Share the link. First up and comer, tier one up and comer in their prime. This is left guards or guards, period. The Saints could use to protect Tyler Shough as well as open up the running attack. Edwards, who will be 29 in March, is arguably the top free agent available at guard. Interior linemen typically peak in their late 20s. He's played exceptionally well the last 2 years with Buffalo. Before that, he was in and out of the starting lineup for 4 years with the Rams. Edwards was flagged twice this year for false starts, but didn't draw a single holding penalty on over 1,000 snaps as a blocker. He's exactly the type of experienced starter the Saints should spend on. Edwards is lined up at left guard on over 5,000 career snaps. That is impressive. That's impressive. Ed Ingram is the next guy who turns 27 in February, thrived with the Texans this year. After 3 so-so seasons with the Vikings, he especially stood out when blocking on a run. He played a big part in Texas' success on the ground in a row win over the Steelers as a team that rushed for 160 yards plus on the ground over the Steelers. As a team, they finished for 164 on 5.3 yards per carry. The former LSU Tiger will be a big addition for New Orleans and plays clean football. Ingram was only penalized twice this season, once for an illegal blindside block, another time for getting too far downfield on the pass. Ingram has lined up exclusively at right guard on over 3,700 career snaps. As you see, David Edwards will be the highest costed person, offensive guy or guard rather, on the free agency pool. Do the Saints reach after him? We most certainly can, or they can approach this in the draft. In terms of interest, if depending on the mindset of the team going forward, spending money on a guard, if that's what you want to do, or with all of the extra picks, because most certainly the Saints they're going to get a 4th round compensatory pick for Paulson Adebo. So they'll have an extra pick. They'll have a 4 according to the compensatory model. The Saints are lining up for a 4th round pick for Paulson Adebo being signed the way he left to the Giants. Saints should get a 4th round compensatory pick for him, which is good news. So do you approach it that way and you just handle business in the draft and just build on that 2025 class with another solid 2026 class? If you could put 2 solid classes together, and making moves and put them together, you got something strong for the next 5+ years. So is it Ingram? We'll see. John Simpson, who's 28, found his footing in 2 years with the Jets after winning a starting job with the Ravens back in 2023. Before that, he had sporadic starts with the Raiders. He's got everything you look for as far as physicality and the tone-setting mentality, but he also plays too out of control at times. He was flagged 11 times this season, including 3 for unnecessary roughness and once for a chop block against the Saints. He got to clean that up. Still, he has good play. He still plays out to outweigh his bad moments. So Simpson has lined up at left guard on over 4,800 snaps. So that's interesting. We definitely don't need nobody that's going to be a troublemaker. Not saying that could be him, but any help that we can get is better than what we got there right now, which is nobody. So the good starters with reverse, and these are the tier 2 guys. Elijah Vera Tucker, who's 26, easily the best tape of this year's free agents. This is a guy that is a solid player. He spent time with the Jets, I want to say. He spent time with the Steelers, I want to say. But this is a man that just can't stay healthy, man. He hadn't played a full season. You know, since they expanded to 17 games, he's actively coming off triceps injury that sidelined him for the entire 2025 season. Teams will have to do a lot of work on his medicals, but he has a great talent when he's available. Vera Tucker has been penalized just 10 times on 2,600 plus career snaps. Hasn't played left guard since his rookie year, totaling over 1,000 snaps, 16 games, while splitting time at the right guard and right tackle positions. Wyatt Teller, since this is an older guard, has earned Pro Bowl and All Pro honors in his 7-year Cleveland Brown career, but his next multi-year contract will be his last, with few guards past the 35-year-old age. He's still a physical tone setter, but he's steadily taken steps back in his pass protection. He's also a career right guard, having not lined up at left guard since his rookie campaign with the Bills on 464 snaps. Now, the Saints would probably have a different plan in mind for Cesar Ruiz if they pursued Teller. But it wouldn't be my thing is you can do both. What I mean by that is you can go about the business and try to sign you a guy and then draft you a guy to compete with Cesar Ruiz at that guard position, or vice versa. You can get one of the top in the second round. You try to land you one of the best guards in the draft to fill a left guard position. You don't spend a lot of money doing it, and you can sign a good tier 2 veteran to push Cesar Ruiz at the right guard spot. That's what I'll be looking to do, because Cesar Ruiz needs competition. You got to unlock that job from this is your job. No. He has to be competed against. It's got to be a mentality where you either crap or get up off the pot. Isaac Somalo, who's 32, is on the older side, but hasn't slowed down. He earned his first Pro Bowl nod a couple years ago. He's someone the Saints coaching staff should know well after spending his first 7 years with the Eagles, whose staff Kellen Moore rated on his way out last season. Somalo wasn't flagged once on 827 snaps this season. Durability is a bit of concern. He missed 7 games over the last 2 seasons, but he's still playing at a high level. Somalo has lined up at left guard for over 5,600 career snaps. Joel Batinio is a 34, considered retirement last year, may hang it up this season despite still playing good football. He has spent over 11,000 career snaps, over 11,000 of at the left guard position with the Browns. He drew a single penalty on 1,000 plus reps this season. He may be past his peak, but he's still better than a lot of the other guards around the league and would be a best player the Saints have to put at left guard since Carl Nix. The only question is whether he wants to play another year and do it so away from Cleveland. So these are some of the options that you have. Is one of these guys you see as a potential signing for the Saints? Is it Ed Ingram, the former LSU guy, to bring in here to compete? Or is it, I think David Edwards probably be pretty pricey, Ingram as well. So we'll see how it all operates, but we appreciate the information. Shout out to the Saints Wire. All right, and then, of course, to finish the stream, one more article for you. Y'all hit that like button, man. We up in this thing. The 2026 NFL Draft Consensus Top 10 Picks, Saints Mock Trend. So this is what some of the mock drafters or the experts out there are saying who the Saints should take, and some of the top people available. You see right here, that some of these guys, we're not interested in getting the quarterbacks, obviously not. But while the quarterbacks are locked in place at going first and second overall, Reese looks like a sure thing to go top 5. The Saints are in a good spot to get one of the best offensive playmakers available at wide receiver or running back. They can also double down on the strength of their defense by adding Downs, a truly generational prospect at safety, and an heir apparent to Justin Reed, and more than capable replacement for Alontae Taylor in the slot, who is a free agent. You don't want to get too far over your skis and say it can't go wrong this season, because it's trending that way. So what else stood out? There's an agreement. At least one offensive tackle will go top 10, maybe 2 or 3 of them, but the little consensus on who that will be. Utah right tackle Spencer Fano led the way by appearing in 9 of those mock drafts, going as high as 3, as low as 10. His Miami counterpart, Francis Mugoa, also has, is a right tackle and was a runner-up with 5 appearances in the top 10, 3 selections at number 11. And don't sleep on Texas left tackle Trevor Gooseby, who replaced Kelvin Banks Jr. this year and went off the board at 6 overall in the CBS Sports mock draft. The Saints shouldn't draft the tackle early, so any of these guys being picked ahead of them will push another player at the position of need. Now, with that being said, I'm going to say this. There are 3 players that I'm interested in for the New Orleans Saints that I think would really be solid pickups for the Saints, right? Really solid players. Now, depending on what the Saints do with Alontae Taylor, which I do think that Alontae Taylor is gone. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think he'll be priced beyond what the Saints want to do for him. Caleb Downs, the fantastic safety from Ohio State, is a beast. He would be a awesome pickup for the Saints at the 8 spot if they stay in the 8 and don't trade out of it, to fall down or whatever. If they're looking for a talented player, he's the best defensive back or best safety rather in this draft. He can do what Alontae Taylor does. Because remember, when the Saints drafted Alontae Taylor, the idea was for him to play safety. They ultimately wanted to move him around to be a backup option in case Chauncey Gardner-Johnson left, in which he did. Then Alontae stepped in. But the Saints have a fantastic player in Caleb Downs and a top 5 talent in this draft. This guy is a wonderful player. If you can get him in your defense, I think Staley would love that. Now, the thing is, I believe that the defense is a little further ahead than our offense is, right? I think our offense still needs a lot of help, but the defense did a lot of work last year, adding talent to it before training camp. So the synergy kind of kicked in, meaning adding guys like Jonah Williams, guys like Bullard, guys like Chris Rumph II, adding talent like that kind of galvanized and helped the defense. They picked up the guys that they knew were familiar with the system. Now, having Caleb Downs in your secondary to replace Alontae Taylor, he can play a little safety, he can play a little cornerback, he can do whatever you want. This guy is a fantastic talent. I'm just keep it real with you. Whatever you want him to do, come down and make plays, blitz in there. He does that. Fantastic tackler, reads the defenses really well, is a solid player, was tested at Ohio State. We love Ohio State players rather. So he would be interesting for the Saints. Number 2 would be Jeremiah Love. Now, Jeremiah Love, to me, at first, a lot of people were saying, why would you take a running back there? You still got AK-41. You still got Kendre Miller. Well, the reason why is because, number 1, both those players, both Alvin Kamara and Kendre Miller, have 1 year left on their deals. Alvin is at the end of his playing career. There is no extending of him beyond this year. So it would be sufficient and suffice for you to pick Jeremiah Love, the fantastic, awesome, do-it-all running back out of Notre Dame, the best running back in the draft, and get him at 8 and plug him into your offense. But you will have to be about the work of fixing your interior offensive line. But it will give you a star running back that you can pair with Chris Olave. You can pair with all the rest of the wide receiver talent that we have here with Tyler Shough. If you want them to win, you got to build the interior offensive line, and you got to give them a really good running back. Plus, having Jeremiah Love here as the top back, he can learn from Alvin Kamara before Alvin leaves, and it'll give you one of the deepest running back rooms we've had in some time. They have Jeremiah Love, Alvin Kamara, Kendre Miller, and of course, we're going to bring back Audric Estime, Devin Neal, I think I said him. But these are Devin Neal, who would probably be the 4th back there. But the reality is this is what you're looking at. Those are 2 guys, Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Love. And then, of course, if you get an opportunity to land, I don't think Bain will be there. But we'll see a lot of people like Texas Tech defensive end David Bailey at the 8 spot. That wouldn't be a bad spot for him to go. But how about wide receiver, another Ohio State product by the name of Carnell Tate, who some consider the best wide receiver in this draft. I do like Jordan Tyson, but I like Carnell Tate better. I think he's a technician. I think he runs good routes. He's a guy, he don't have breakaway speed, all this other kind of stuff, but he knows the game. Excellent catcher of the ball, really high IQ, and a guy that is really good in pressurous situation. He's a guy that you throw it to him, he's going to catch it, make difficult catches, 50-50 balls. The guy has good athleticism, just not a 40, he's not a speed demon, but he's a technician. So that's interesting. So these are a few of the players, not all of them, but a few of the players that you would be justified in taking at number 8, which is 2 spots from 10. But yeah, like if you're looking for an impact and if this draft is really about helping Tyler Shough, you got to really consider the Jeremiah Love move as well. And if not him, then Caleb Downs, because I believe both of those guys will be available. Now, with that being said, let's take a look at who a lot of these other people pick for the Saints to the draft at that 8 spot. DraftWire picked Peter Woods from Clemson, a defensive tackle, who's actually a pretty solid interior defensive tackle force. You still have Brian Bresee and Vernon Brockton. I don't know why you would make this move to get Peter Woods. To me, Peter Woods is a good interior force, very disruptive, but I would not be drafting him. And I got Vernon Brockton and Brian Bresee there, and I can bring back Bullard and Jonah Williams and John Ridgway. You know, I can bring those guys back and have a really good impact in stopping the run. But I wouldn't go for Peter Woods, but I respect the decision. USA Today says Jeremiah Love for the same reasons, I believe. Dolphins Wire says Cornell Tate. Pro Football Focus says Caleb Downs, the safety. Bleacher Report says Cornell Tate. Athletics says Caleb Downs. The Ringer says Jordan Tyson from Arizona State, the fantastic wide receiver. Tankathon's Jeremiah Love. The Draft Network and NJ.com says Jordan Tyson, Arizona State product. Fox Sports says edge rusher Keldrick Falk from Auburn, who they go to. And you get Cam back. You got Chase Young. You got Carl Granderson. You got guys like that. And you'll be thinking out, let's get another edge rusher. Like I said, my priority is to see if I can't get an impact player, because it depends on how your board is built, right? And this is it's not a difficult thing. You just got to do your own work. I'm going to create this year the Big Q board, the big board, the Big Q big board, which will have 50 of the best draft players and prospects in the draft. I'm gonna have that here and place this and have it put up here and show you guys here my big board based on what I've seen from these players. And of course, we're gonna kind of look at the tape, and as we go to the combine and all this other stuff, we're gonna see how that works. But bottom line, it is what it is. Okay, and the rest of them, the Ringer has Jordan Tyson, the Tankathon, and Tankathon has Jeremiah Love. Draft Network and NJ.com both have Jordan Tyson. Fox Sports says Keldrick Falk, defensive end from Auburn. CBS Sports says Love. Clutch Sports says Bailey. The Score says Jordan Tyson. Saturday Blitz says Keldrick Falk. And finally, the Landry Hat says Cornell Tate of Ice. So you're seeing a good mix of different players, kind of all over the place, because they realize that guys like at the 8th pick, Cornell Tate, possibly Jeremiah Love, those guys could be there waiting for the Saints to pick. So we'll see how it all falls. But if Love ain't there, I go Caleb Downs. It depends too who's sliding down into the spots, because there's always somebody that might jump up there that might move ahead of you to get something that you want. You never can tell how it ended up in the draft. And that's simply what it is. All right. So anyway, fam, that is all I got for you today on this episode of the Sports Coma. And all you have to do is feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and by all means, feel free to share the show on your social media feed. I appreciate you for being in this episode of the show. Listen, fam, I'm going to bounce back tomorrow with another, man. We're going to keep this going 7 o'clock every day for the rest of the month. We beta testing that time here on the Sports Coma as well going forward. A lot of change, and that's what you're supposed to do. You got to change the win. You got to adapt the die, and that's what we're doing, man. We're keeping it all the way funky. So with that being said, I'm going to get out on that. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell as well, and also feel free to share the show. It helps us out. Check out our links in the description section below. Shout out to our sponsor of the show, FanDuel. Y'all check them out for all the latest bets on the playoffs that's coming out and everything else. FanDuel is where you want to go, the official sponsor of the Sports Coma with Big Q. So with that being said, I am out of here. Shout out to my Patreon and YouTube membership family. We got new content up. There's a new episode of On Q with Big Q covering the oil war that's happening. There's a new episode of TSC Patreon that's up, breaking down the latest mock and talking about some of these fantastic talents in that one. Y'all check that out as well. If you want to join that, it's patreon.com/The Pro Media Network. Link in the chat or link in the description section. With that, I'm out. Much love, peace, and who that
is. Yeah. Huh? Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. I'm a Who Dat. Long as I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. Sports Coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, 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 Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. I'm a Who Dat. Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like Elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube Live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your shame for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy, then you probably smell the crooked referees on Roger Goodell. Yeah, Boogie like this, and I'm a Who Dat. Every day I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, 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 Boogie like this, and I'm a Who Dat. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
Hey, New Orleans! Whether you're catching up on Saints news at Jackson Square, checking Pelicans scores in the Garden District, or staying updated on LSU while grabbing coffee in the French Quarter, there's one place that keeps you connected to everything that matters in our city. From Bourbon Street to the Superdome, from Preservation Hall to the Riverfront, New Orleanians are staying in the know with the whodatdaily.com. Your daily source for Saints, Pelicans, LSU, and all the sports, music, and culture that makes our city special. At work downtown, at a game in the Dome, or just relaxing by the Mississippi, wherever life takes you in the Big Easy, you can stay connected. Because when you're from New Orleans, you don't just live here. You stay in the NO. That's stay in the know. Visit the whodatdaily.com and never miss what matters most to Who Dat Nation.
Welcome to the Pro Shop, where we create authentic NOLA-inspired clothing for men, women, and children. From Saints jerseys to Pelicans gear, everything's crafted right here in New Orleans. Whether you're shopping the Pro Shop, the Pel Shop, or the Pro Shop Kids, we've got your whole family covered with genuine merchandise that represents our city's spirit. Check for links in the description section below or in the chat.